Genes, chromosomes, DNA, and genetics. We've all heard these words before, but what do they actually mean?
Gene is a part of human body that carries the characteristics from parents to the child.
A gene?
Yeah.
I think a gene is a piece of like data within your DNA that makes you who you are.
I have no idea.
Okay.
Nutri-who?
Nutrigenomics?
Oh gosh. Nutrigenomics. I have no idea.
Genetics is a branch of biology that looks into the inheritance of traits and variations between organisms. Everybody is made up of the same structure of DNA, but how that DNA is coded in our genome is what makes us all different. Not only does that special coding of DNA determine how you look, but it also can determine your overall health, and even assist in foreseeing the possibility of developing a chronic illness later in life. Chromosomes are what hold our genetic information, and like stated earlier, are made up of DNA. Each cell inside of us contains 23 pairs of chromosomes, equaling 46 total. 22 of these pairs are autosomes, and the last pair is a set of sex chromosomes. In each pair, one chromosome comes from your mom, and the other comes from your dad. The 23 sets of chromosomes determine your genetic makeup. DNA, also known as deoxyribonucleic acid, is found in the nucleus of the cell. In short, it helps determine how our cells function. It is made up of nucleotide bases, a phosphate group, as well as deoxyribose sugar. This structure forms a double helix. The packaged DNA will begin to coil tightly around a protein called a histone. The tightly packed DNA then forms chromosomes.
So we already know what genetics is. It's the DNA set you get from your parents, which you're born with and you can't change. Epigenetics, however, is how your environment interacts with your genes. The word epigenetics actually means on top of genes. So what we're talking about here is molecules that sit on top of your genes to either increase or decrease the expression of that gene. So what this means for us is your lifestyle actually can influence how your genes are expressed. So SNPs are single nucleotide polymorphisms. So this means that is a single change in the DNA sequence. So your DNA is made of 4 bases: adenine, guanine, tyrosine, and cytosine. So that means when you have a single nucleotide polymorphism, just one of those in the DNA sequence is changed. And this can change things either fundamentally and make large DNA changes and really affect things, or the nucleotide sequence could still code for the same protein and there could be no change and no effect in the way your genes are expressed. One mechanism of action in epigenetics is methylation. This epigenetic modification can influence phenotype, which is how your genes are expressed. Interestingly, these methyl donor groups come from methyl-rich foods, which are foods high in B vitamins. So these include nutrients like choline and folate, which we can get from eggs and dark leafy greens. When methyl groups are added to your DNA, these act as a sort of biochemical tag which increase or decrease transcription. So let's look at a specific example to understand this better. A gene that codes for the enzyme methylene tetrahydrofolate reductase, or MTHR for short, metabolizes tetrahydrofolate, or THF, to 5-methyl-THF. This molecule helps resynthesize methionine from homocysteine. Now this is important to do because homocysteine levels are important to keep low because they play a major role in inflammation. Inflammation in the body can lead to chronic diseases like cardiovascular disease or Alzheimer's disease. So increasing folate consumption in people with this MTHFR SNP can help reduce risk associated with these diseases. So that was just one small example of epigenetics and how your genes can be affected by your environment. This is exciting information because that puts the power in an individual's hands to change their gene expression. So what's in your DNA may not be your ultimate genetic destiny.
Right, so in my practice, I'm more concerned about something called Nutrigenomics, which is the study of the relationship among your genes, your diet, and the health outcome that can come along with that. It's super exciting, but Nutrigenomics is still a relatively new study. You know, we don't know a whole ton of stuff about it, and we're still learning every single day. So the USDA establishes these dietary references intakes for nutrients. They're called the RDIs. And they also include the RDAs, which stands for Recommended Dietary Allowance. And so these are things you see online if you've seen like My Plate, and they're set to meet the estimated nutrient needs for a normal physiological function for the majority of the population. So although these nutrient requirements may vary from person to person, so I may need some different requirements than you might, the majority is what it's trying to appeal to. So research is scarce on how genetics affects a person's nutrient requirements, although some evidence on genotype and nutrient needs exists for a handful of micronutrients, including vitamin C, choline, and folate. Nutritional genomics is such a fascinating field of study, especially because at the root of it, it means that we are trying to be most helpful in personalized nutritional recommendations based on individuals' genetic makeup. This approach has been used for monogenetic diseases, but if we can somehow hone in on how to use it for common multifactorial disorders, to develop tools to detect genetic predisposition, to prevent common disorders decades before the manifestation. Wow, what a breakthrough in science that would be. So as a dietitian, we see patients all the time with different health concerns, different walks of life. They have different genetic makeup, so many different things that go into what nutritional requirements they may need. And the biggest thing I've learned is that this makes them each unique. Every single counseling session is a new individual puzzle. It's a new challenge to attempt to solve. And the goal now for dietitians is to try to put this knowledge that every person will have different nutritional requirements into practice, and it'll be so totally worth it. It'll be tough, but it'll be worth it.